All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
This thing hot?
Yes, sir.
This is, we had a couple technical difficulties.
Take 7.
Yeah, take 7. We're missing our fourth comrade right now, the Samblon, Colt Elkins. He'll be back on the next episode. Next time you guys see these three faces, Colt will be joining us. Something that we wanted to get going, something that's personally a little background info real quick before we just hop right into the business. These two guys right here, you guys haven't seen them before. You've seen me briefly, but I'm just, I'm trying to get life together with the baby on the way, with baseball still in the background.
Yuck.
We're figuring stuff out, right? But these two guys right here, two of my very best friends. We got Chris Wilson, the Philadelphia fanatic, and then to the right of him, we got the degenerate, the Hunter Lee Sands, otherwise known as Shooting the Shit with Sands, as indicated on his screen. You can find him on his YouTube channel there as well. These guys are, I'll keep it short and sweet. If you guys get half the enjoyment as I do listening to them talk about basketball and then just football and all that other stuff on the side, but predominantly basketball, I think you'll learn a lot and you'll find a lot of enjoyment out of just their banter back and forth. So without further ado, Chris Wilson and Hunter Sands, everybody, let's jump right into it, boys.
Let's do it. What's going on, folks? All right.
Yeah.
Y'all got something we want to hit first?
Yeah, so another thing too, this is kind of candid. We want it to be off script and just kind of replicate what we do in our personal lives when we're together watching sports events, right? Or just chatting and keeping up with games from our remote locations, right? We're keeping this as candid as possible. So we don't even have a name yet for ourselves. Like I said, there's 4 of us, so we will get Colt in here. We apologize for that right now. But if y'all got name ideas for the 4 of us, it don't matter what it is. Drop it in the comments. Let us know what you think we should be called. We've got a couple things, the Bet Gods and the Dad Bods, or the Fab Four. We're not exactly sure where we're going to roll with that yet, but neither here nor there. That stuff all comes with time. So I guess we'll start off. We're the prime of the NBA season right now. That is sport number 1, along with college basketball, right? Post All-Star break. If we want to talk about the Steph Show in the All-Star game and then roll from there, I think that's probably a good place to start, but I'll let you guys have the floor.
Go ahead, Chris.
16 threes, right?
Something like that. Record.
I mean, I don't want to sound redundant, but he is actually the greatest shooter I've ever seen. Not only the greatest shooter that I've ever seen, but the greatest shooter that Landon's kids will ever see, in my opinion. I don't think he's ever going to be.
Facts.
The stuff he is
probably fair
is ridiculous. To make 16 threes. He does the patented. I know you guys saw the one on the sideline where he turns to the crowd.
The turnaround.
Yeah.
3 of those. One was from half court.
Go in. I was going to bring up the logo one next. The arrogance. I know it's an all-star game, so there's some showmanship involved, but the arrogance and confidence to do that from half court and turn around and just trot back. You can see Trae Young actually looks at him before the ball goes in the net, I think. He's kind of like, it's just got like, oh. I'm just,
yep.
The All-Star game was a spectacle, man. That Embiid did his thing. 7-2 step backs at 280. He went for MVP for a little bit. Once Steph got to about 9, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be one of them nights. It's gonna be one of them nights, man. It's Steph's. That was crazy, man.
Yeah, so
Steph Show.
That's the thing. That's also my take. What's crazy is I went back and watched the highlights, and if you go look, I had this theory about players, right? Like LeBron, Steph, KD, when they see the new young talent, they want to show out.
Yeah.
Every time
right.
LeBron played the 76ers, when Ben Simmons got drafted, it was like a 38, 10, and 9 night. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every time Steph saw Trae in front of him, it was, I'm lighting it up. I'm going to show you that you will never be me. You will never be me ever in your life. Yeah. And literally every time, if you go watch the highlights, it's always Trae's on the court when he started getting hot. Yes, too little, way too little. It was crazy. Yeah, it was a fun game to watch. That's why I love watching the All-Star game, because it made me remember why in middle school, I knew I would never be a pro. Anytime these guys aren't breaking a sweat, and it's halftime. Like they're not breaking a damn sweat, and it's halftime, and they're out there just throwing windmills down like it's nothing. Steph shooting half-court threes like it's nothing. Not breaking a sweat, just having fun. So that's the difference between like the cold guy that went to a D2 at a pickup game trying hard and scoring all 11 points, and then these pros are playing with the best players on the planet and dropping 50 in a pickup game, which is nuts to me. It's nuts.
The first 3 quarters of the All-Star game, you could go around to each individual, and you could point at them and say, that's what homie would look like playing a pickup game at your local rec center. Like
killing you.
You know how they're not really guarding anybody. Uh-oh, we lost a guy. We still recording?
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, we're good.
But you know how they're not really guarding each other? That's what it would look like in a real pickup game. It might look, you might be trying to actually stay in front of Ja Morant. That don't matter. I mean, come on now. What's he got? He's got a 40, a 45. He's got a 40 at least, bro, and then some. He's got a 40.
He's got.
I think it's more.
Bunnies.
Yeah, and I know I just cut out there too, but I thought that was interesting that you brought that up about the age discrepancy when players kind of just like they see that, and because at the end of the day, that's like the NBA, right? It's these guys. We see them. We have this tendency to kind of like dehumanize them as players and as people, but they're out there with the chip on their shoulder, just like we were when we were 13 in middle school, high school, whatever. So I thought it was crazy. Now that you say that, looking back, that's kind of how the teams were split up. Like Team LeBron was more of kind of like your older, more established veterans of the All-Star game, and then Team KD was kind of a bunch of your young bucks. So interesting the way that that was kind of split up. But then, so the Steph Show, right? I have written down here Steph's Show, and then with the arrow pointing to Bron's court, because it was just fitting for him to end the game the way he did, going 5-0 in the All-Star game since they've changed the format, right? And then in his hometown, his the city, right, that he was crowned king. I thought that was just poetry. As Chris, I think, was the one that said it, pure poetry in our separate group chat. It was just cool to see the game end in that regard. But back to the format, I want to hear y'all talk about how that has kind of like impacted the competitiveness, like in the fourth quarter, and maybe just explain to those who may not be familiar what the change was as far as the All-Star game format is concerned. If y'all want to talk about that.
The thing I love about the format is this shit matters to them. Him and KD, you could tell when the draft was happening that they are competitive about winning the playoff game. So, like, this whole thing when, it's all jokes on Twitter, but when LeBron's getting roasted for, like, celebrating that 1 year last year when they now got to the grand total, which is weird to me. The whole grand total thing is kind of weird. But when Dame hit the half-court shot and they're going crazy and all that, you can tell it matters. I think KD would do the same thing if his team won. But another thing is a LeBron fan in general, LeGM is 5-0. They call him LeGM.
I was gonna
bring
that up, man.
LeGM is 5-0. He knows how to draft the team. So stop talking about his management skills. But yeah, Chris, I really did. I like the new format because it brings a thing where Jimmy's playing against his coach in the playoff game, or CP playing against his coach, if that was the case. It was just really fun to watch. That's what I enjoyed about it.
Yeah, couple things I want to touch on. People don't realize that Steph Curry is actually from Akron too, I believe, or at least from.
Yeah, they were born in the same hospital, him and LeBron.
So that's.
Okay, I see. I never knew that.
I gave a shout out, kind of an ode to Steph Curry too after he went bonkers. So I thought it was fitting that Steph hit 16 threes and Bron hit the game winner. Just two kids from Akron. That was kind of cool. Two, to touch on the GM, bro. Like, one, Kevin Durant wasn't on the other team. They're kind of missing their captain.
Yeah.
But two, Joel Embiid is 0-5 in All-Star games, dog. Like, can somebody worth the? Can you please draft my dog? My guy is hurting. He is hurting. And,
Said, "Help me."
During the show. I think Embiid definitely won an MVP. He definitely.
Oh yeah.
He went at Joker a couple times. They had a couple threes, in each other's face going back.
That was personal.
You could kind of feel like Joel was like, it was personal for Joel. I don't think Joker,
for the MVP race for sure.
Yeah,
it was.
Joker's ever gonna. I don't think that's Joker's style, but you could tell Embiid was like, hey, don't forget about me on this week off. Like, I'm really doing that this year.
Well, Jokic also had a quote at the end of the game where he said, I don't know what the hell to do in All-Star games. Yeah. That shit is not for me. He's too fat. Yeah. He's too slow. He just what's he going to do, shoot mid-range jumpers? I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what that honey bun's going to do out there, bro. I don't know what he's going to do.
But Brandon wanted us to touch on the Elam ending. So basically the guys play 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And then whoever is in the lead, say that I'm up 160 against y'all's team. It's 160 to 158. They then add 24 points. I think it's kind of an ode to Kobe Bryant. They add 24
It is
points.
an ode to Kobe, yeah.
They add 24 points to the top score going into the fourth quarter, and that is the target score. So I think it's awesome because there's a bunch of ways that the Elam ending helps, in my opinion. And they're talking about a quick pivot. If they run that midseason NBA Invitational that they're talking about, you've heard some of that. They're going to try Elam ending in that.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty dope, in my opinion. But you're looking at
yeah, and that's another conversation that we can talk about later on too, if you guys need to. I
think 2 things the Elam ending does. You can't. You kind of lose the time element, so that part stinks because I think in the NBA when you're say in a playoff game inside 1 minute, that's where you really notice
when it gets hot.
Over. Guys like Matisse, they get the ball and they're like, oh my God, where's Joel? Where's so-and-so? Like, that's where the big dogs usually show out. And in an all-star game, obviously, you have, there's 10 of them. All 10 guys on the court. They're the guy, give me the ball. And I think you kind of lose the time element, but you do. Somebody touched on this on Twitter. If you play an Elam ending style of basketball, you get a game winner every single game. Every single game, bro. Like, think about that.
That's actually very true.
You get a game winner every single. There's no up by 9, and the other team's fouling, and you're kind of ending the game on a free throw and a miss, and you're jogging it up the court and dribbling it out. Like you're going. You know what I mean? Like you're going. And it was what was the score? 161 to 160, and target score was 163 in the game. Like it's let's go. But if you foul Steph Curry on a layup, and they only need 2 points, it's basically ball game. So it makes you defend better. More responsibly. There's a game winner in every single game. I just think I don't know about bringing it to real basketball, which Zach Lowe has touched on. I don't like that. I don't like messing with it, but I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
The boost of legacy some bums would have about game winners if they brought
He's got 72 game winners.
Yeah, he's hit it every time it's mattered. Like, no, he hasn't. He had a 15-point lead. Don't call it a game winner. Jesus.
Yep. So all that stuff adds to the competitiveness, and then you add on top of the charitable donations for the winning team. That element is also cool because that's something that they play for as well. So to me, I just wanted to applaud the NBA for figuring out a way not only to give back, but to bring out the best and most competitive side of the best basketball players on the planet, and seeing them all hyper competitive with that many superstars all on the court playing pickup basketball at one time. You see that intensity in their eyes, the switch flips, and it's amazing to watch. So I think the NBA did a great job on that. The next thing, y'all mentioned LeGM, talking about LeBron James and his prowess as a team builder, both at all-star game, non-all-star game, regular season, whatever, but there's a gigantic but, an asterisk right now with the LeGM and the decision to bring Russell Westbrook out west to LA. So I mean, what do we got on that?
So basically,
fellas.
Get the rant out, Sands. Get it out.
This is crazy.
Here we go.
Crazy because this is the one time I've never defended. This is the one time I'm not defending LeBron, and not that it's the first time I'm going against him, I should say.
You have to blame him. You have to.
Because I touched on this on my podcast, which I will comment underneath this video and give y'all a source to get to mine. But I commented on this that I was doing my MVP rankings, and spoiler alert, I have DeMar DeRozan at 5. And I was thinking DeMar DeRozan wanted to go to the Lakers. It's not even about a pay cut. You're paying Russell Westbrook $40 million right now to do one. I saw a fun fact on Twitter that he's shooting a higher percentage than Steph from the field this year. But
I did see that.
If you watch him play, it just
crazy.
Doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit that he could have had Buddy Hield on his team, which right now they need shooting. Mm-hmm. They need another shot maker,
floor spacer.
They need something other than what Russell Westbrook is doing. The thing that makes Russell Westbrook, this is the way that I can say about Russell Westbrook, the best thing I can say is the thing that makes him great, that put him in the top 75. One of the best players of our generation. Don't let this year tank that. It holds him back. It holds him back. The thing that makes him great holds him back as well. And it was a bad move by LeBron. Also, another thing before I pass this to Chris.
Real quick. What in your mind, what is the thing that makes him great? And
going
what is holding
110 miles per hour every single second of every single minute he's on the floor. Now, old heads respect it when it's somebody from the 90s. But now that Russell Westbrook's doing it and it ain't looking good, they're not liking it. But before I pass this to Chris, the one thing that I would say is, unfortunately, Russell Westbrook is the scapegoat for Rob Pelinka's team that he built, which I made a joke on Twitter about. Crazy. Rob Pelinka's in the shadows going, oh my God, nobody's talking about me right now. Yeah. Nobody's talking about me other than LeBron making a little subtle jabs here and there, All-Star weekend, and nobody is talking about AD being out this whole year. And if AD's healthy, I do believe they're not a 4 seed, but they're in the mix. Yeah. They're a 6 seed. There's something, because when he plays, he's an elite player.
Yeah. That's just to touch on the trade in totality, I think not only could they have had Buddy Hield, and when we say they could have had Buddy Hield, I think Woj broke the trade. Like, there was a trade announced that the Lakers were getting Buddy Hield.
Yes, and then, he literally tweeted it.
I remember that.
It's done.
Yeah,
and it's like 30 minutes later,
it was done.
And Bron called it back.
Yeah, Shams comes out and it's Westbrook going. Not only could you have just simply swapped those two players, like you said, Russ is making $40 million. I think Buddy's about 20, 25. Yep. I think the trade for
you could have him and DeRozan.
Yeah, the trade for Buddy was going to be Kuzma and Trez. So you're talking about you can keep KCP. You guys can make fun of KCP all you want. Twitter does it all the time. You need quality 3-and-D role players. I mean, look at the Lakers now.
Role players. Yep.
Because they don't have guys who like to dig in on possession of possession. Alex Caruso. They didn't want to pay Alex Caruso $9 million a year. He is perfect for the team that they have now. Like
before he went down the Bulls, he was an essential player. Yes. Period.
I mean, he was. Lowe touched on this too. He was top 5-7 in Defense Player of the Year voting for a guard. If you want to put a guard up there, Alex Caruso, he takes pride in digging in and getting in your ass every night.
That's how he earned his stripes to begin with. Just that,
KCP, yeah. KCP, you're paying Alex Caruso. They decided not only to trade for Russ, they chose THT over Caruso. Straight up. It's 100% the decision.
What is this myth about THT that I've never seen?
I remember Frank Vogel. You remember Vogel talking in the bubble? Yep. THT is our secret weapon. We're going to bust him out.
He's going to be the future. He averages 7 points a game. He's going to pop off. Like, no, he's not.
He ain't secret anymore, and he ain't a weapon. I know that much. So, hey, I'm gonna think that that one's on Pelinka. But yeah, LeBron. And the thing is, LeBron's calling the shots for the most part. I mean, he's 37 also.
Yeah.
So when LeBron says, I want to win now, you're winning now. Like, which taking it further, I'm surprised they didn't do the Russ and a first for John Wall. I don't know if the trade's amazing, but I do know, at least in my opinion, they're not winning the championship with the way the roster is currently constructed. I just don't see it. Even if AD's back, Russ just doesn't fit. So
one last point before I throw it to you, Landon. What Chris touched on, the defense. So on my podcast for a whole year, I said, listen, AD and Bron were out, and guess what? With AD and LeBron out, which LeBron was one of the best defenders in the league via opponent field goal percentage on him, and AD is AD, They were still top 5 in defensive rating the whole year without LeBron in them. That's the one thing that made them a contender, even with their down drops. They were a top 5 defensive team in the league forever. And now they are at the bottom of the league in their ass at defense. And every night I bet an over on the Lakers. I go to sleep with a beautiful, calm head and just fall asleep knowing I won a bet because they can't guard anybody.
Put it in writing already. Man.
Yes.
Okay, I think I want to talk about something that may not have been caught by vast majority of NBA fans. You know exactly.
I know where we're going. I love this. I love this
topic. the Boston 3 party. All right. Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen.
Let's go, Ray.
Take it away.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, okay, so more
story, man.
a little bit more backstory what I'm referencing before I let them handle it. There was a clip that was shared when at halftime of the All-Star game they were announcing, the 75th anniversary, the top 75, right? Kevin Garnett is mugging somebody. And I didn't really put it all together, so I had to ask these two. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, why is he being like this amidst all these all-time greats? Like, something crazy has to be happening. But they explained it to me, so I'll let them do it again.
Yeah. So, as most people might remember, it was kind of Paul Pierce alone in Boston. They assembled a quote-unquote big 3 by bringing in Kevin Garnett, bringing in Ray Allen. You got Rajon Rondo. Obviously, he wasn't quite at that level yet, but they form a big 3. They have, I wouldn't say a rivalry with the Heat, but the Celtics get a chip, right? And they go to another. And Ray Allen, Sands, you might know a little bit more. Is this when LeBron comes back from down 3-2? Or is Ray on the Heat at that time?
No, that's after they come back from 3-2 and LeBron has the 45, 15, and 5 game.
Was Ray with Boston at that time?
Yes.
Okay. So, so imagine bolting after that. So Ray Allen bolts Boston to go to Miami and link up with Bron. And he obviously hits, the Game 6 shot to step back on the offensive rebound from Chris Bosh against the Spurs. That sends them to Game 7. They go on to beat the Spurs and, win the chip, that whole thing. But they're doing the awards ceremony, and there's a snippet, a little video on Twitter of Ray Allen walking up, and he's kind of walking to his spot. And it's Kevin Garnett and LeBron positioned right behind KG. And KG is just, he's licking his lips and his fist is, if you watch his fist is kind of,
like he about to swing.
Up, it looks like he wants
dog.
And Bron's just back there like, yeah, what's up, Ray?
He did this. He was doing the thing that Ray Allen did when he hit the shot against the Spurs. He was going like this. He was doing this.
Yeah.
And Kevin Garnett looked like me when I saw one of my ex-girls with their new man when I was at the bar. I was like, I'm about to punch him in his face. Why is he disrespecting me, showing up with me here like this? He literally, like KG, you can tell that the mythical stories are real by that one. It encapsulated Kevin Garnett's whole aura and persona that we have heard about. Because we're too young, honestly. Like, I'm too young to know what KG looked like in his prime. All right, I'm 26. Yeah. He was in his prime. Did he win an MVP? Didn't KG win an MVP? I think he did.
He did with Minnesota.
Yeah. And so I never saw those years when he was in Minnesota, really. I was 6 years old. Yeah. But you hear all these stories and stuff like that. And, man, it is just so funny to see him bald fist. By the way, the assignment of the standing it had to be real because Paul Pierce and him were standing right next to each other. So they knew to separate them and Ray Allen. And I thought it was funny that it even added more to it. My thought was LeBron being homies with Kevin Garnett, who is his low-key, him and Paul Pierce and KG are rivals. His rivals, he's good friends with their rival. I thought it was one of the funniest snippets I have ever. I'm telling you, I watched that 8-second clip and died laughing.
Died. Lay down, watched it 1,000 times.
It was so funny. It was so good. It was premium content.
So that's just the type of stuff that I love, especially about the All-Star game, is like with the NFL, right? These dudes, they're fully padded up, they got helmets on, so you don't necessarily grow the connection
I was explaining
the way that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you feel more connected with NBA players, and it's like, to me, Casey asked me the other day, she said, what would be a bigger dream for you, or bucket list item, to sit courtside at an NBA game or sit front row 50-yard line at an NFL game? And I said unequivocally it would be sitting courtside at an NBA game, and it's all part of the whole. They feel so much more vulnerable. They're right there. You're closer to them. You can see not only the banter between each other, but the competitiveness and the shit talk with their opponents, and like you just kind of feel like you're there. Whether you're at the game or you're watching it on TV, you get this like personable relationship with these guys. And so that's just really cool to me. And then to see all that unfold on arguably the biggest stage, right? When you got to acknowledge, like, because guys like that we see today, like Steph Curry and LeBron, who are at the pinnacle of the sport and have been, the two greatest players of our generation, they aren't that without all the greats who preceded them, right? And they're out there in this element, right? First time really being announced like that with all those people in the same arena at the same time. And then KG is still so hurt by that beef with Ray Allen.
The one moment,
the audacity.
The one situation where all athletes squash beefs is at ceremonies to appreciate greatness.
Right.
And this man, still to this day, I know just going through his head, is he left us. All the championships he won with Bron. I can't do this. I want to punch him in his damn face. It was so damn funny. Oh, and one last point on the personable part. Nia was asking me, I was like, why do you think basketball players are so popular and stuff? I'm like, you can see their face. I'm like, dude, I watched every Bucks game for the last 6 years. If I saw Ali Marpet walk down the street in Baton Rouge, I would not know it was him.
Yeah.
I would not know any of them other than like the star like situational players. But on the Miami Heat, I could see Omar Yurtseven on the side of the street. I'd be like, yo, look at Omar Yurtseven. Like, I would know who the 15th man on the bench is.
Nobody even knows who.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
Wild stuff, man. It's a cool element. You really just get to know them. You feel like you get to know them just because of that. Yeah. They're so much closer to you because of that. But I don't even know. I mean, the dunk contest. I heard this question.
That shit was ass.
Posed. It was terrible, right? And it's one of those things where it's continuing to deteriorate and become a less intriguing. I remember, bro, when I was 13 years old, that was like the highlight of my year. It was like the best night of the year watching the dunk contest. It was the coolest thing ever.
It's still like that.
But now,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I heard this question. I know it would never be possible just with all like the liability and stuff like that, but it was cool to think about at least. What if you took the best high school player, the best high school dunker, the best current college dunker, and then the best current G League dunker, and you had them in there, and then took 3 or 4 other current NBA participants? I don't know if you guys
listen. Anything other than what the hell I saw the other night is bet. Give me the best 8-year-old dunker on a 7-foot goal in that shit
on a little tight.
Give me that. Give me the Fisher Price goal with a 4-year-old. I don't care. Whatever that was that I saw, literally. I would have Ernie Johnson doing that dunk contest thing where he's doing the guns. Yeah, I'd rather have that than what I saw. And the one thing they have to do is change the rule of if you lose control of the ball, it doesn't count as an attempt. Because if I saw Jalen Green attempt the same dunk for the 15th time, I was going to lose my mind. And I was telling Nia, I was like, this event is so bad now. Like, we were getting hyped for the three-point contest. Like, I got my girl watching it with me. She was like, damn, they shoot like that? I'm like, yeah, they shoot like that.
I was about to
and then the dunk.
And then
another thing. What the dunk contest used to be like. That's the one you want to
exactly
sit down for and be like,
right.
All right. Like, let's watch a 7-foot big man, Karl Towns, drop 29. Just
well, because you eliminate subjectivity with the judgment. Like, it either goes in or it doesn't, and you can add it up. Like with the dunk contest, not only do we have a stale product because there, there's only so many dunks that can be done. So at the end of the day, like, it starts to become redundant. But two, the best athletes in the game aren't in this contest anymore. So it's just less of a spectacle. But yeah, and you add all that stuff up with, on top of that, now you've got this subjective judgment on guys who, they're sitting on the sideline and they're just kind of like holding up cards without really telling you why they're scoring it the way that they're scoring it. So it just kind of gets weird, right? It's a jumbled
It's all
product.
about the fans. Like, the thing is that when you miss those first two dunks, the fans are kind of like, get him, do something, So it's all about the fan hype.
Yeah.
Like Obi Toppin had a damn good dunk contest performance to me. Obi Toppin did pretty damn good. Now, against like Aaron Gordon or something, he's not getting out of the first round probably, but he did some unique stuff that was, and he made his dunks. Literally, everybody was cheering when Obi Toppin made his dunks because he was just making the dunk on the first or second attempt. That's all it takes.
That's a good thing to hit on. When you watch a guy miss a dunk twice, the best part of the dunk contest, regardless of, even if they go in there and just do a full pump, the best part of it is the element of surprise. Like, when you watch it go up and attempt it and it bounces off the rim, you already know what's coming. There's
exactly.
The build-up's
That's
gone.
true.
The freshness of the dunk is gone. So by the time it goes in, the guy could do a Zach LaVine 360 windmill between the legs from the free throw line.
Yeah.
But if he makes it fourth attempt, you're kind of like, not bad.
Jalen Green's homie was like, I think we should stop doing this shit. Like, I think we should stop doing the off the backboard pass. But he's just like, nah, run it back. I'm like, please stop.
Send it.
Run it back. I got 3 more attempts. Like, nah, man, it's not good. I don't know what they need to do. But the internet way. The internet way.
The high school, college thing, that would be cool.
Yes.
Maybe you let people apply. Maybe they don't have to be in the G League or in high school. I mean, you go.
That's
on,
what I was saying. Like, the internet way.
You find some professional dunkers. I mean, they're doing some crazy stuff right now.
People forget
that Mac McClung.
So
that video.
I didn't want to be the asshole that did this. I saw a dude do that on TNT. They had a special that was a Sprite slam dunk special, and I saw a dude do that dunk. It's these random 5'10" white dudes and these dudes from all over the place that jump 50 inches and all they can do is dunk. And that's who they need in the dunk contest. And then you can incentivize it as, here's a cash prize for a dude that's not in the NBA to win some money, and people get crazy creative or something like that. That's the only way I can see you fix it. Because John Morant's never showing up. He's not.
That's the thing. There's ways to look at it. Like, Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon, they're not household names, but they were household dunkers. But they're household dunkers, and I think maybe going into that contest, I don't quite remember my mood, but I don't think I was like, man, this is gonna suck because I'm not watching LeBron James and prime Dwight Howard. I do think name value matters a little bit. Like, it sucks knowing that John Morant can do some of the stuff that no other human can do, and he's sitting at home because he doesn't want to participate. Like, from that perspective, it would be kind of weird seeing a high schooler that nobody, quote unquote, knows. But like I said, bottom line is, if he does a 360 windmill from the free throw line, it don't matter if it's LeBron, Sands, me. Like, I'm standing out of my seat and I'm like, oh my god.
Like, one more point.
The product is what matters. I don't think
to add on that, people forget Derrick Jones Jr., former Heat player, came up in the Suns G League to go on the dunk contest, and he got 350s. Yeah. And then he ends up being on the Miami Heat roster and winning the dunk contest. And the reason, this is my last point, the reason that people don't compete in the dunk contest, John Morant showed you. He's turning up. It's his all-star weekend. He's an MVP candidate. He's led his team to a 3 seed. Why do I have to compete in something when I finally get to have a break?
That's their downtime.
Exactly. This is my vacation mid-season. Yeah. Get over it. Like, I get that. I totally understand that.
For sure. They get a week vacation.
Yep. And that's another thing, too, where I could also get behind. You made a great point to add and consider. Me kind of just being this lifelong underdog as an athlete, I resonate well with that underdog story. So, like, a guy making a name for himself who isn't already a household name, like you mentioned, Derrick Jones Jr., now all of a sudden he's this hot commodity because he's this top-tier athlete.
Literally. He got paid big bucks by the
Right, so that is – yeah. So in that aspect, it's cool to potentially have that, but that can't be your selling point, right? It's going to resonate well with certain people like myself, but again, as product as a whole, it's trash if we're being honest and calling spades here. So
and the skills challenge sucked. It sucked.
Yeah.
The new skill challenge sucks. I want to go back to the year when D Wade was they just do the crossover layup, crossover pass, then go shoot it. I want 6 competitors all 1-on-1, not this BS they're doing with like a team drill. I don't want that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So what's in game for this Zion Williamson thing, man? I mean,
obesity? What are you talking about?
What?
I feel bad for him, bro.
What are we doing?
No joke.
I do too.
So he came into camp over 300 pounds, right?
I guess at some point you got to point the finger at him. Dude,
allegedly.
it's crazy. I don't mean to.
Allegedly. I'm allegedly over 215. You don't know that. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, Landon, before you dive in, it's crazy. Go back and look at what he.
No, I want you to take this. This is you. I want y'all.
When you look at him as a freshman at Duke, bro, like, dude,
never seen anything like it.
He was a chiseled, but like 280. He's like a chiseled
unit.
Makes no sense.
And to see what he looks like, okay, part of me is like, okay, it's the internet. Like maybe he has a hard and fat suit out there, and he's not actually that big, right? I'm like, there's no way. But you see him walking at some of these pressers, and you're like, he's 315.
I live in Louisiana. I've heard rumors.
Yeah.
There's no way he's not 315. And everybody had that worry for a guy that explosive carrying that much weight. Obviously, that's the part that's sad to me. Is as a 20-year-old, he had arguably the best paint scoring season in NBA history, like right up there with Prime Shaq and Giannis. As a 20-year-old, who can only go left. But he's 285 and girthy, and he explodes up, and you just like kind of can't get through his shoulder to contest, and he's
Zach Randolph on an Nerf hoop.
Yeah, he's Zach Randolph with John Morant bunnies, bro. Like that's what he is.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I guess to answer Landon's question, and I don't want to be the I told you so guy, but I said a year ago I think he's out of there. The same way I think.
Yeah,
I think Luka's out of there. I think Luka's out of there in 3 years.
Me too. I've been hot on that. I've been hot on that.
The player empowerment era today, everybody but Damian Lillard. Everybody but Damian Lillard. And
grind.
Maybe like Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's up in the air because if he goes back to Washington, he's in the same boat as Dame. If he doesn't demand a trade, he'll probably go back to Washington because he wants to sign the Supermax. But I'm kind of getting off topic here. But I think Zion's out of there. You've heard the rumblings just like I have. I know you have for a year and a half that his family doesn't like New Orleans. Some of the local councils they're not catering to him the way that they would expect a superstar to be catered to. But strictly on the court, it's impossible for us to know how he's being treated behind the scenes. You know, it's not the team's fault that he's overweight and his body's breaking down. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you break your foot as a big guy. So you can't run. So if you can't run and get on the treadmill and stay in shape, you gain weight. And then when you come back, you're too heavy for the repaired foot that you're trying to mend. That, you know, it goes back to like that old adage of big men and foot injuries. Like they're frightening, man, because there's no real friction.
Exactly.
Same amount of weight coming back down, and back down, and then some. And then for a guy that jumps like that, you know, you just multiply it by 2, 3.
So the things that I've heard, and this is me living in Baton Rouge, you don't know if anything's real. Yeah, true. You don't know what you're hearing is true. So I live in Baton Rouge, and this dude that I work with, his sister lives in New Orleans and works at a like top tier seafood restaurant. No. And she said Zion would go in there, bro.
No.
Zion would go in there and order enough food for 4 or 5 people, and that's common with pro athletes, but she said the difference was from the Saints or people like Cam Jordan or something. She said she sees Saints players all the time, literally weekly. She said Zion would buy the whole fried side of the menu instead of the fresh side. So he's in there eating gumbo, fried crab legs, fried shrimp,
hush puppies, French fries.
I'm telling you, if she said
extra bread, like
she said she didn't know who he was. She didn't know who he was. She thought he was a defensive tackle. She thought he was a defensive lineman that played with the Saints. Asked their damn manager who he was. He's like, that's Zion Williamson. And she's like, doesn't he play basketball? And he's like, yeah. But the one thing I will say is Zion should have zero complaints about what David Griffin has done, even though he's a rat son of a bitch with the Kyle Lowry situation. He has made a team over there. He is drafted well with Jose Alvarado, the kid from Alabama, and
Herb Jones has been balling.
Herb Jones, that's his name. I forgot his name. I kept calling him Hubert for some Jesus Christ. I was calling him Hubert on my podcast. So Herb Jones, those guys, and C.J. McCollum, Brandon Ingram. Yep. He had Josh Hart. All he wanted was to get a point guard for him, and now he has two guys, Brandon Ingram and C.J. McCollum, that can average 20 as the second and third option with you averaging 27. Yeah. You cannot complain that he hasn't set you up for success and made a shitty team a very good team, or a good team now without. They're a good team without Zion. I've seen them play. We played them before the All-Star break, and they were good.
Bro,
they were good.
They gave the Mavs everything they wanted. With C.J. McCollum dropped 30 the day before that they played the Mavs, or the game before they played the Mavs. He dropped 30 without even hitting a single three in that game.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So he can't complain about what the organization's done for him. They seem to be catering towards him, and David Griffin is the dude. Bro, you're not LeBron. Mm-hmm. Listen, I run this shit. You don't run it. And if you're not going to be involved in this and once again, J.J. Redick is, to me, probably the most reliable source in the media. He never lies. He just said he's a straight shooter. He'll tell you how it is.
Straight shooter.
And like I said on Twitter, the thing that was removed from this whole conversation, the whole quotes and all that, was that he said he told Zion to his face in the locker room what he said on national television. So he had a discussion, and now Zion every other day is posting Instagram clips of his teammates. Hilarious. Quit playing, Zion. Yep. You don't want to be there. You wish you were a Knick. You wish you were a Knick, and it's okay. But don't do that to that organization.
That small market, man. That was a concern going in. I remember that being a headline and a topic of discussion prior to that draft. Will a player as highly coveted and touted as Zion, is a market like New Orleans gonna be fitting? So that's separate discussion to have. I also wanted to add this real quick, and again, I'll relate this to just my own personal experience because that's just kind of the way my brain works. So he's 21 years old, right? If my career,
that's crazy. What the hell?
If my career was defined by my off the court or off the field habits. At age 21, I'd be a complete and utter disaster. Now, I will say, though, the caveat to that is I was never a Zion Williamson. I was never anywhere close, right? I'm a bum compared to him. So I don't have all the things at my, available to me that he does, being as highly touted as he is. There's no excuse for learning how to take care of yourself and taking care of your body. I understand.
I was about to say, Landon, listen, I don't mean to interrupt. You have been eating salad and chicken breast since you were 18 years old, so his eating habits are on him. I'm sorry.
So I will say that is true, but only since I was about 25, really, is when I started trying to actually hone in on that component of, but that's what I'm saying, is the maturity level as an athlete takes time. So 21 years old, Zion Williamson, he's still, I can't write him off yet, but I just wanted to say, we've never seen a player like this almost ruin himself, or at least to the detriment of his career, putting his career in jeopardy by having a weight problem this quickly in his career. I've never seen that before. The only
thing I've seen, not weight problem, Ben McLemore, there, you have to read up on it. Ben McLemore from Kansas looked like he was going to be one of the best scorers we would see, and then eventually got into the draft, and apparently his rookie year, they said he was one of the best, if not the best player on the team. then got his contract, got involved with some bad money problems because he was giving all his homeboys money, buying everybody houses because he couldn't tell them no. And that's the only thing I can see towards self-sabotage that I can remember in recent memory like this, other than Greg Oden also with alcoholism.
Well,
which is terrible.
That's the thing, too. We touched on it earlier, me and Sands. Like, you always hear how scared people are of big men with foot problems, right? And I think this time in particular, Zion was set to return, like, probably prior to now, initially.
Yes,
and you
way early.
Come out from Shams and whomever. Zion had a setback, and the thing is, I was talking with Sands just a second ago. Like, as a guy who is, you got to think, Zion's 6'7" max. He's 6'7" max. He's 285 and he plays like he's 7'1", 300, but he's 6'7" max. Like that's a lot of freaking weight, to be carrying on that body. And when you have foot problems, the only way to stay in shape as an athlete is the treadmill, sprints, cardio.
To be able to move.
Right. You're playing 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5. There's a ramp-up period. And when you've got a hurt foot, you can't rehab, obviously. So you're sitting there, you're gaining additional weight. And by the time your foot is ready, so you think, there's additional weight and stress that gets added to that part of your body. And then it's kind of like a recurring thing.
Great point.
And the guys with feet, it's so hard to get right. He obviously
interesting.
got introduced to some new food, right? Like, there's no.
Talking about food before you keep going, Chris. Not to interrupt. No, the thing was also what I was thinking was the cardio in playing basketball covers your eating diets. It covers your eating setbacks that you're having when you're playing when you're burning all those calories. It probably don't show that much when you're eating like that. So
when you're sedentary, the diet becomes infinitely more important.
Yeah.
And I just think, you combine that with how explosive his game is. He's not a jump shooter. He doesn't even shoot mid-range shots. We touched on it earlier. He explodes 40 inches in the air, and you can't get through his shoulders, and he shoots a left-handed layup. And it's coming in every time. Yep. But to be that big, having foot issues, it's I don't know. I don't, like you said, he's 21. We don't have access to the x-rays. We don't know what his work habits are like behind the scenes. I haven't heard anyone say he's not a hard worker. Personally, I've never.
Nope.
He might have.
Nope.
Yeah, I haven't heard that either.
Have an eating problem.
The only thing,
perhaps, but I've never heard.
The only thing I've heard is that.
Yeah. Go.
Did the Pelicans say they were going to have to reteach him how to run? Like, was that something that was discussed before drafting him too? Did I hear that correctly or no?
That was an actual thing that came out. I think they wanted him to work on the way that he landed. They wanted to work on the way that he landed also when he jumps. I mean, they were trying to do, because I think that their doctors, I have to imagine their sports science group got together and was like, that's a lot of weight to be coming from 43 inches in the air repeatedly every single night. I don't want to switch topics, but the Sands knows this. Joel Embiid, he doesn't really dunk all that much anymore.
Never. He'll lay it up.
I hear today on TV say that Joel Embiid's not explosive. And I'm like, you are wrong. Yeah, if you saw Jared Allen dunk the other day, he's explosive. All of his injuries came from him leaving his feet to his high ability. And you're 7'2", you're coming down on feet,
in traffic, like down low in traffic with all these bodies. Yeah,
he missed 2 years from a foot issue before he ever played a single second in the NBA. I think for him, a lot of that was, okay, I've got to retool the way that I play. It drives me crazy times now. He'll have a wide open lane and he'll kind of go up weak, or he'll lean into somebody and try to draw a foul, or he'll shoot a layup with his hand almost above the rim. Mm-hmm. But because he doesn't want to leave his feet and risk that violent landing, when you got 280 pounds hanging on a rim with body weight carrying you to the right, do you let go? Do you hold on? Do your hand slip? There's just a lot more room for error there. So I think it's interesting because Zion's not 7'2". If he takes 20 inches off of his vertical, that's a different player than, than 7'2" is.
For sure.
I think it's interesting, man. I don't really know what the solution is out there. I do think he wants out. I really do. I don't know anything about the guy. Obviously, I've never met him. I don't know anyone related to him, close to him. He doesn't strike. He seems like a really good kid from everything we read.
Mm-hmm. I've always thought that too. Yeah.
Dude. Like you go in front of a camera, he's smiley. He's genuinely just happy to be where he's at. but I would never mistake him for a leader for sure. And he's 21. Like, who is? You see LeBron James leading a bunch of bumps to the finals.
That maturity.
Not everybody's like that. It's hard to lead, man. It's hard to lead.
Yeah. The maturity comes with time, and I think that's a great point. Obviously, you are a Sixers fan, right? So it resonates deeper with you than most. But with the Joel Embiid thing, right? The self-audit, to be able to – remember, because there was bust talk written all over him.
All the time.
Like this dude can't stay healthy, we're writing him off, right? That was a thing for a while.
Long time.
And to see him now at the MVP caliber level that he's at today, maybe the best player on the planet right now. It's for debate, but we can have that discussion too.
Number 2.
That's the stuff I love is athletes being willing to mold their game, just like saying, okay, I'm jumping too much amidst people that are weaker than me, so they're having to foul me harder.
Yep.
I got 280 pounds landing on one foot oftentimes when I'm getting bumped and fouled and, whatever. Okay, so he figured that out. And what did that do? Not only did it keep him healthy, staying grounded and maybe sacrificing a little bit of that athleticism, right? It's allowed him to evolve his game. So he's much more crafty now, and now we're seeing his skill set completely unlocked. So it's like,
oh god,
trial by error. But it's poetry, man.
Like what happens usually to guys on the way out, they often start too late. You know what I mean? They try to retool the game
as their athleticism dwindles.
So it's like Embiid's figured this out at 27. He's come back every single year for the last 4 years a better player than he was the year prior. I mean, it's kind of crazy. You don't really see ascension for this long at that steady of a pace in his case. And yeah, to your point, like we said, Zion's 21. I'm not going to write the kid off. Am I scared for him with it being a foot? Yeah, I am. But
I'm scared. For sure.
Embiid didn't play for 2 years. Embiid was the farthest thing from a leader you could ever imagine. You see him on Twitter now. He was much worse back then. It's part of his fun-loving nature, but he was never the guy to galvanize a locker room. That stuff comes with time.
Yeah, he had to kind of like turn the Twitter troll down a notch.
I think he had to earn the respect of not only the organization but the fans was big for Joel in particular. And the reason I say that, if Zion wants nothing to do with those fans, they probably know it. Like, Sands, you're out there in Louisiana, they probably know. They probably read enough and heard enough local buzz.
They can't name the Pelicans starting 5. They don't know shit about basketball.
Maybe not.
Dude, I'm telling you, hey,
maybe that's why he wants out. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you,
if he goes and plays
he's used to going to Duke.
If he goes and plays ball in the Garden, they will know. They will know the starting 5. They'll know 1 through 6.
And they the Knicks have been a lottery team for the better part of this decade that I can remember, other than when the Carmelo Anthony years were going on with JR and all them. They haven't been a good team.
But last year,
yeah,
I had to check the volume on my TV in Game 1 against Atlanta, and I was like, why?
Yeah, the Garden during playoffs is crazy.
I was like, why is my TV on max volume? My TV is on 6. It's on 6 surround.
Yeah.
There is no place rocking like the Garden, bro. And maybe
exactly.
I don't blame Zion for wanting to be in the Mecca, but you got to do your part first. You know what I mean?
I'll say this: when I was shopping for tickets, when I couldn't go because Nia had work, the courtside seats for a Pelicans game, one courtside seat, one row up was $325. So that shows you who's showing up. And then I go and watch the Bally Sports in New Orleans to watch the game, and you just see them surfing the crowd, and there is 45 people there. So
it's like they still got COVID protocols running. Is what it looks like.
Yeah,
but they don't.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man. Yeah, I'm pulling
so,
for the guy, but we'll see.
I think since we talked about Joel Embiid for a second there, let's talk about maybe some of the stuff that happened at the trade deadline, Chris, particularly with you and the Sixers. Obviously, acquiring one of the better players in the league in James Harden, which made you a very happy man, as rightfully so. The main topic that spun from that whole situation is obviously James Harden's prior relationship with the GM. So there was always that connection, but it was who won the trade, which side won, the Nets or the Sixers. I know where Hunter stands on this. I know where Chris stands on this, but I feel like it was a good discussion, and I've heard a bunch of different, positions thrown out there on this. I also want to say, though, my only thing before we just evaluate the trade in itself, James Harden was a heavy price tag to get to Brooklyn to begin with. So to me, I don't just evaluate the trade between Philly and Brooklyn. I also evaluate the trade and what Brooklyn had to give up to acquire James to begin with. So that also has to be factored in.
For sure.
Y'all take it away.
Yeah, it's I remember going back. It's kind of funny now. So the trade obviously was Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-rounders for James Harden and Paul Millsap. Whatever.
I can hear y'all. 1 second. I can hear y'all. I'm about to go attend to something real quick. Okay. I can hear y'all, though. Okay. Promise.
Okay.
And so that was the trade in a vacuum. Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, 2 1s for James Harden and Paul Millsap. And it's funny going back to before the year or back to the deadline last year when Philly was in originally. It was going to be Ben, Tyrese Maxey probably was going, Matisse Thybulle. Seth Curry's value wasn't where it's at now. He wasn't even thought.
He's upped his stock since then.
He was the second best player on our team in the playoffs last year, which is kind of crazy and sad at the same time. And then you're talking about multiple 1s and probably a couple swaps. I mean, Brooklyn got the farm. It was James Harden. You know what I mean? Coming off MVP. Not too many years prior. Has he slowed down a little bit? I'm sure he has. You know, are his hamstring issues concerning? A little bit. Yeah, you start getting up there in age, and you look. It's different for guys, in my opinion, like LeBron, Chris Paul, Damian Lillard, who spend $1 million a year on their body, who do they can to stay in shape. And then, honestly, you have James Harden, who, while he is amazing, he does what he does off the court. I'm not saying he doesn't work hard. People act like James Harden's skill set was given to him by God.
Wait, Chris.
I don't like people to
tell me you saw the video.
I did. I saw
Tell me you saw the.
I saw it.
He said, "Lil Durk and Lil Baby and Meek were in the studio at 2 a.m." I stayed up till 7:30 and went to practice right from the studio. I couldn't miss out. You couldn't miss out on some rappers rapping in the studio. Hilarious, by the way. Hilarious.
Practice, bro. They don't practice in the NBA. We're good there.
He ain't missing anything at the strip club neither, which is I think Chris's previous point that he was alluding to.
But just getting to your point, Landon, I think.
Who do you think won the trade?
A lot of that depends on who James Harden is right now. I think if you look at the trade in a vacuum, I could see how you could say Brooklyn won. If you simply stack up, but that's the thing. It's funny to me when people make the rounds on the internet saying that Brooklyn won the trade. The same limitations that they hated on Ben Simmons for in Philly, they're now completely disregarding them in Brooklyn. It sounds like Sixers fans all over again. They're like, this guy can run, he can push the pace, he's going to guard the best player, he's surrounded by shooters, he's not gonna need the ball at the end of the game. All this stuff where the scenario was the exact same in Philly. Now, does Joel play in the post? Yeah. Is Ben better, obviously, around the rim? Obviously. There's a little bit of a difference there. But Joel showed he can float on the perimeter. He can play from 18 feet out. I'm not saying the fit's going to be bad. I think if Ben is at his best, I think it's going to be beautiful. But it's just funny to me that while James Harden had a down year, he's still a top 20 player in the NBA. Still, I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
He's second in the NBA in assists. Joel Embiid has never had a pick-and-roll ball handler like James Harden. And people want to talk about how his scoring and efficiency have dipped. Yes, it has. Was he checked out? I don't know. I don't know how much of that plays a part. What I do know is he's played a year in Brooklyn, and he played 16 games with a big three. You can't tell me that doesn't weigh on a guy's mind. Clearly, James Harden, who has shown a propensity to quit before. Say what you want about him as a basketball player. He has shown a propensity to quit. But I think Philly adding that level of playmaker alone, even if James Harden's scoring clip stayed down, that's where we win the trade. Sands, and you know better than most people.
Yeah.
You take Embiid off the floor, and the offense craters. I mean, it craters. They're running.
Just made that point. They're just made some jokes about that.
They're running point Korkmaz. Last year, there were lineups with Ben Simmons and Dwight Howard running high pick and roll on the 3-point line. Like,
point Korkmaz. I don't think very many people understand how wild that is to think about.
A creator role. I just think, this way you can obviously, fingers crossed, please, Doc Rivers, stagger your lineups in a capable way that we will understand.
He won't.
He might not.
He won't.
He's never made an adjustment in his whole coaching career.
That is correct. Ty Lue is better. But I just think it's, to your point, Landon, I think maybe Brooklyn wins in a vacuum, even though I'm still not sure that's the case. But when you go to on-court, the thing that people forget, yes, it helps Brooklyn. But when you're a team trying to win the chip, you're looking at what you can do to improve. You know what I mean? You're looking at us. It's us, it's we, it's what are we doing. You essentially traded Seth Curry and Andre Drummond for James Harden. Ben Simmons has not played a minute of basketball for you this year. You swapped Seth Curry in a backup 5 for James Harden. The trade is won by a landslide off that alone. That to me is cut and dry. You got nothing from Ben. Now, does shipping Ben to a team that you might see in the playoffs
lockdown defense, like when he's right, right.
He's
the best defender in the world,
in my opinion. Yeah,
but that's a big if.
But my look on it is the reason the Nets won the trade, in my opinion, is I think the way that Chris looks at Ben Simmons not playing for them, they weren't getting anything from James Harden either. So essentially, you traded one checked out dude for a dude that hadn't played all year. And do I think that James Harden was checked out for 50 games? No, I don't think you played that badly at the beginning of the season. I don't think he's checked out for 50 games. But the whole, I think when it spiked to me was, I told this to Chris in our group chat, the KD injury. He didn't have KD out there.
No, the KD
and then he's going,
the KD injury unraveled everything.
Yes, and I'm just like, all I saw was James Harden production doesn't go down. It goes a lead balloon. It goes through the Earth's core because KD's hurt, and he's got a guy he don't vibe with that well, as we've seen in these reports, with Kyrie, and then you don't have him on the court but for half the games.
About Kyrie,
No, and you had this guy on the court that is only there for half the games. So, and they're both ball-centric players. KD is too, but KD is one of the most unselfish superstars you've ever seen.
Yep. Golden State helped his game a lot, for sure.
Exactly, and that's where he's always wanted to play like that. Unfortunately, he was hindered by Russ, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that also worked out pretty well. They went to a finals when they were babies. But at the end of the day, I think what Ben Simmons brings to that Brooklyn team is the recipe they needed, just as the other way around. Just as the Sixers needed an ISO scorer that can do everything, Seth Curry, who can. He's a specialist who's exactly a spot shoot off. He was kind of incredible to start the season off with his mid-range jump shooting in their two-man game. But a Tyrese Maxey who's undeveloped, who on my list right here with my most improved players is number 2, and who has doubled everything. Has doubled everything. Points, rebounds, and assists from last year, and then he doubled in minutes. Nothing changed. His field goal percentage didn't change. He averages double the points, averages double the assists. That's a dude that just needed opportunity. But with a team like that, it just seems like when Harden comes in there, it's so weird to have a dude come in that electric, that big of a personality, that big of a superstar with such little games left to me. It's very odd.
No,
on the other side with Brooklyn, you got a dude who I think could be their Draymond Green, who I think could be at the high post, get all these screen plays going off, even though I think Steve Nash isn't a good enough coach to draw up some plays. I think that could open up a lot of their offense with KD and Kyrie getting open off ball, even though they're not known for off ball.
That's more of an ISO team, right? Kyrie. I mean, with Kyrie and KD, that's kind of like that's their MO. And I like where we're going because we're on the same wavelength. I was going to reel it back in and be like, my opinion, we've kind of seen both sides of in y'all's opinions, who won the trade. I don't really care who won the trade. I think both teams got better, personally. And
me neither.
And I'm infatuated with Ben Simmons' skill set, so I hope he gets right mentally, right? I'm not going to speak on that. I don't know where he's at. Absolutely. But so him not having to worry about being the creator in a half-court set, right? He just gets to play D and then just be an athlete in transition, go get boards, whatnot. But then James Harden being in an environment again with Daryl Morey, who he respects and trusts, and then obviously having a charismatic guy like Joel Embiid, who's an MVP caliber candidate himself. He's healthy, he's available, more importantly, right? And he's on the court for now. Yeah.
For now.
So I think
hopefully
both teams
stays
win.
that way.
Yeah. Cross them up, Chris.
And another thing, my last point on this before we probably get to our last point, since we're at an hour here. The one thing that James Harden has always been successful in is an offense where he has a Clint Capella, where he has a Dwight Howard, and a big guy that can roll. I'm not dumbing down Joel to that. I'm just saying, and I think that you see this thing, I had this point on my podcast, where those games against the Warriors, against the Rockets, every game it seemed like when they missed 27 threes and they lost the series, it seemed like the Rockets were up by 15 every game because James Harden got worn out. Having another ISO scorer on your team like Joel, and 100%. It's not Chris Paul. Chris Paul can score. He is not this top grade ISO one-on-one player that Joel Embiid is, a dominant force. It's going to let him chill out for a couple quarters, get his energy right for those fourth quarters, and maybe those fourth quarter chokes while you're carrying a team go down a little bit. So,
yeah, no, I think all that's fair. I mean, I think, there's a lot of little intricacies to it. Can you still double Joel Embiid? Yeah. If and when you do, when he kicks out to James Harden, it's not a Tobias Harris holding the ball and contemplating his next decision. James Harden's going to go. He's going to catch and go. He's going to catch and shoot. You got a legitimate playmaker. I just think, I think when it goes wrong, everybody's quick to pile on the negative side of guys. Mm-hmm. We do this all the time to athletes. I don't want it to get lost that James Harden is still one of the best players in the world, even if he's not peak Houston. James Harden.
Absolutely.
It's funny to me, some of the criticisms I've heard, and I don't want to harp on this too long. We can move on, but there's only one ball. I heard somebody say that there's only one ball.
I've hated that criticism for my whole life watching basketball. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. LeBron James played with Kevin Love, Kyrie. You had Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Klay on the same. Shut up. Shut up about one ball.
If you're a guy who's only looking at the rim, sure, but is James Harden a heavy ISO player? 100%. One of the most used ISO players ever. But
also, probably arguably the best passer in the league.
That's what I was about to say. To act like he hasn't molded his game to fit other superstars, to act like he's not a top 5 passer in the NBA is ridiculous. It makes no sense to me that people want to obsess over the scoring and who's going to take the shots, when in reality, top tier. You just traded Seth Curry for James Harden. As a playmaker, just think about that. Like, just think about
the negatives
and nothing else.
You know, it's funny. Both the negatives. This is how funny sports fans are. Both the negatives. It's like they're swapping. It's like he's not playing good offense right now. But when they're criticizing him, they're saying he's prime James Harden. He's going to shoot 40 times and average 36. How is he going to pass? Well, pick one side. At least I picked one side of the coin. Pick one side of the coin.
I just think to Landon, you touched on kind of Ben being free and, getting to play with Kevin and Kyrie and not having to take the last shot. I just want to ask the viewers, are we sure that Ben is okay doing that? Because as a Sixer fan, I can tell you we've tried to pigeonhole him into a Draymond Green-esque role. Now, granted, we never had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving around him, but a lot of the reason they clashed is because the fan base, in my opinion, the fan base and the city started to gravitate towards Joe. And it was Ben has always seemed to want, right, Sands? Like, he's always seemed to want my ball, my team. Like,
that's my counterpoint.
Show. I want to run the show. Is Ben willing to be and maybe he is. Maybe he sees this opportunity as a good chance
think Ben
to have a career renaissance because he kind of has to. But I'm not so sure that, Ben coming down the court, who's going to stop Philly from playing Hack-a-Ben in the playoffs?
Nobody. But I would say this.
Prove to me at Wells Fargo Center that you can make the free throws that you just missed last year. Like, the same problems down the stretch when the game gets tight. Are you really going to be clear of all that mentally just by going to Brooklyn? Like, your fans are going to embrace you. They're going to clap when they announce your name in the warm-ups, when you come on the field, and you're going to make a nice dunk, and you're going to have 8 assists a game and a behind-the-back pass and a through the legs. But when the game gets tight, and the blood stops flowing as well, and you're at the free throw line, and you've got the weight of the world watching you, knowing people are waiting to make fun of you, get the Twitter jokes off. Are you sure you're in the right headspace because you've got a different jersey on? Are we sure that he's going to completely?
But my counterpoint, my counterpoint there is, I think Ben thought he was better than Joel for a long time. I don't think he's ever thought he was better than Kyrie and Kevin Durant. So I think he's willing to hand those keys off and be like, I'll take that role. I'll take it.
Yeah. Like he needed that reality
check
like a Carmelo Anthony thing. Of guys that he's...
It's a Carmelo Anthony thing where he has to take the role that he's given now, because it's cool when you're 23 and doing this. He's about to enter his prime in age-wise.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're going to be starting to be looked at like a Dwight Howard or a Carmelo, these egotistical guys that don't take the game seriously and think everything around it matters more than what's on the court. And that's not a good look at all.
The household names that fizzle out probably a little bit earlier than they probably should, right?
It's unfortunate for Dwight. I love Dwight.
I think, he's a Hall of Famer too, by the way.
Easy.
That's also a different discussion. But what to me is important to acknowledge, I think, and you guys just honestly just spurred the thought, but Ben coming up with Joel Embiid, right? They're kind of establishing the alpha role in Philly. Like they're having to try to work that out in real time, like live. Going to Brooklyn,
that's my point.
Similar market.
He knows.
But he was coming up with Joe. Yeah. But he came up watching Kyrie and KD do their thing. Like he was lauding over these dudes before he was ever in the league, right? They were kind of already established before his upbringing. So I think it's going to be a much easier transition if that is your question, Chris. Like, which is a very legitimate one. It's fair. And I'm glad you brought that up. But I think it's going to be much easier for Ben to just defer to the back seat, knowing kind of, he's who these guys are, right? These are dudes that he watched as he was coming, like a young and up and coming kid before he was drafted.
But to round this out,
we'll see, man.
To round this out before I pass it to Chris to end it up, wrap it up, is those free throw problems won't go away ever.
Yeah,
ever.
For sure.
And Steve Nash has to have the balls to sit that man in the fourth quarter when you have Seth Curry and other guys that can make free throws like that. So,
but that's what I'm saying. How long until he's doing the same stuff over there? You're gonna sit 35 M's on the bench with 3. You know what I'm saying? 3 minutes to go on the fourth. Like, can you?
Spo would.
Do that?
Spo would.
I'm glad that. I know you and I and Sands as well, but we always talk about the human psychology side of athletics. I think I love not the pivot to mental
it's
health,
huge
but
to
I
me.
like the Kevin Loves and the, like you said earlier in the show, we
DeMar DeRozan's
guys, and we act DeMar DeRozan we act like they don't have emotions, that they are simply robots, and the trade is made on paper, and okay, I'm going to go here and do the exact same thing. No, you've got to reacclimate to the fan base, the city. You got to get living situated. How are the fans? How are the trainers in the back? How do people address you every day when you walk in? The small interactions that we don't.
All that stuff matters.
All we see is them playing 48 minutes on TV. We don't see anything else behind the scenes. So I'm glad you touched on that, because I do think the simple fact of him getting out of Philly, I can imagine it being like when you exit a state of depression or anxiety. Like your chest quite literally, the weight is lifted. It no longer feels heavy.
Yeah.
I really think he probably has cleared a real hurdle if what he says about mental health, if that's actually what's been going on with him.
Yep.
I think that's going to be massive for him. So I don't want you guys to construe that the wrong way. I think not even Brooklyn, it could have been any of the other.
Just a change of scenery, period, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Right, because a change of scenery is huge.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to touch on coming down the stretch. Maybe not this year, but say you flame out again in the playoffs, or there's 4 minutes and 15 seconds to go this year in Game 7. Are you scared to get fouled? Are you, and it's only a matter of time before the Brooklyn fan base starts treating you the exact same, and ESPN's running the same clips, and you're turning off ESPN in your house. Like Ben, Ben doesn't let anybody in his house watch ESPN supposedly.
I respect him for that, because ESPN doesn't turn on in my household either.
No, I respect it. I'm not saying I would do any different as an athlete. You got to negate the toxicity as much as you can. My only point is the issues that plagued him, in my opinion, are still going to be there in Brooklyn. There's still going to come a time where you got to drive to the basket and make a decision. Are you willing to go to the free throw line and knock down for – it's not like – he was never a great shooter, Sands. You know that. He shot, 65%? He shot 34% from the line last year. I mean, Landon, you play baseball, obviously. This is Yips level stuff that we saw from last year. I mean, it's big time. But, I think
that Y word is a strong one, folks. I ain't gonna say it, but y'all just heard Chris say it. That's a strong word in baseball.
I've always prided myself. I don't want to.
Is that Rick Ankiel, by the way?
Say again.
I think that was Rick Ankiel for the Cardinals that I saw a video of when I was younger, getting the yips, and he ended up being like a 20 home run a year guy for the Cardinals. In that
might have been. I think Hayden Hurst got it as well. The tight end, he got it playing baseball. I think a similar thing happened to him. So I don't, I'm obviously not a medical professional. I don't want to throw that word out there lightly, but I think it's something to keep an eye on, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. I like the trade. I do think both teams got better, but I'm really interested to see. I know we're going to get a motivated James Harden, at least for this year. Don't quote me on anything after this year. Depending on how things end, I don't know where his mindset will be next year. He didn't sign an extension. The paperwork was put in too late. Technically, he's a free agent after the year, but I know I'm going to get a motivated James. I don't know what version of it, and an aggressive James, I guess, is the more important part. A confident James Harden. I don't know what version of Ben I'm going to get on a basketball court. So,
yeah, that's fair. Any other points, Landon, that we need to hit on? Any other topics? We're at an hour 15. I'm down to go hour 30. Just a quick little bang, bang, bang topic.
Yeah. The last thing that I really had, and by the way, this last 15 minutes prior is exactly what I wanted to happen. You guys just started flowing right there, ripping off stats and ripping off philosophical things and nuances and nuggets with the coaching philosophy. That was quality stuff right there. So that's what I meant at the beginning when I introed it, just learning something. If y'all get 50% of what I get listening to you two talk every day, it'll be a great product. So props there to both of y'all on that. And the last thing I really wanted to talk about, man, is obviously today's day one post All-Star break. It's go time for the NBA right now. So maybe down the stretch, we could tease that for next week's episode if y'all want, or if y'all have some quick hitter thoughts, just kind of wrapping it up down the stretch. What do we got as far as the playoff picture, all that stuff, matchups?
I believe that the couple things I touched on this on my podcast today too. I'm gonna keep referencing that so everybody goes and watches it and watches me curse and excuse me, I'll bleep that. Just yell at my damn.
Yeah, subscribe to Shooting the Shit with Sands if you haven't already. You'll get quality content.
I don't know if it's quality, but it's good time.
Content.
My
entertainment.
My one thing is, I honestly, the Bucks are very interesting to me. I think that Giannis hasn't really even. I'm not gonna say hasn't tried because he tries every game, but I think he hasn't reached his peak of this season yet. Individually as a season, I don't think he's gotten to the point where he could be, and he's casually averaging 29, 11, and 7. I want to see how that comes together with that whole squad coming back. I want to see Brook Lopez come back. People aren't even mentioning Brook Lopez not even playing.
Yeah.
And things
Brooke
of that.
Windus?
Yeah.
Shout out Drew.
Yeah, we have a friend named Drew that looks not exactly like him, but they have a lot of similarities. And yeah,
that's my bad. I got to leave inside jokes off of this platform. I forget people don't understand.
I'm just gonna when I edit it, I'm just gonna put a picture of Drew and Brooke by each other.
Little pop up.
The other thing, obviously, as a Heat fan, I'm looking for hopefully more consistency health wise. Hopefully more Tyler Hero being healthy, Jimmy Butler staying healthy, and seeing if we can maintain that 1 seed, which isn't anything special in the East when you have the Brooklyn Nets sitting at the 8 seed right now. So it's kind of crazy that out of probably 4 teams that I would say are true contenders out of the East, and only got probably 2 in the West, maybe 3. That one of those are probably going to lose in the first round, in my opinion. So that's probably what I'm looking forward to, seeing what happens.
Yeah.
One other thing that I just thought of, I also wanted to mention 14 games, I think is the number that Kyrie Irving has played in, right?
Yeah, they're 4-10.
If I have that correct. They have 4 total wins this season with Kyrie Irving on the floor.
Yeah, without KD.
So that's kind of a wild.
That's been my whole thing.
That's a wild stat
Another
in and
hot
of
take
itself.
I have.
Also,
him and Aaron Rodgers are so similar. I think that Aaron Rodgers is the Kyrie Irving of football, and I think Kyrie Irving, it's not about the COVID stuff or anything. None of that. It has nothing to do with that. I'm talking about they're a spectacle to watch, and sometimes they're just underwhelming. They have these really random, underwhelming performances when you know they're one of the most skilled players you've ever seen play their sport. So,
Landon, were you?
I like that comp.
Were you going to touch on the vaccine status?
Yep. Go ahead. That's exactly where I was going.
Interesting, man. Sands, I know you saw that.
The mandate,
we could be talking about full-time Kyrie, which really changes the equation to me. And like you said, the interesting part of all these trades is you have 22, 24 games to mend. It took the Miami Heat. It took them a full year and change to fully mend. For people to think that James Harden, for example, is going to go to Philly and they're just going to mesh and win a chip, it's unrealistic. It takes time. But I think by the same token, people acting like the Nets, in my opinion, were serious contenders with a part-time Kyrie Irving. That shit was ridiculous to me.
Nah.
You can't have a part-time player.
It's me too.
You can't have a part-time player coming in and out of your lineup. That just not in basketball.
For the record.
You could maybe do football with the left guard or something like that. But basketball,
Kyrie Irving can only play
the chemistry aspect is crucial.
If the away games stand, Kyrie Irving can only play 8 more games for the rest of the entire season. By the way, they only have 8 away games if that mandate does not get lifted, and that 22 games out of 82 is crazy. That's Kristaps Porzingis stats.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna just tell y'all right now, the fact that it's getting leaked already, I don't think it's a coincidence.
Nah.
Like in the All-Star break when it was when that rumor was broken, they'll lift it.
Yeah.
And Kai's gonna play down the stretch. But again, to Chris's point, the chemistry aspect, Kenny the Jet on the TNT set, he said that today, right before we hopped on. He was talking about that whole component of guys being able to flow together. And the qualities that championship teams possess is the stuff that you can't really see as far as like the X's and O's and the gameplay. It's the subtleties of being able to look at a teammate and know where he's going to be and what he's going to do and just kind of like cue off of each other. That type of stuff has to happen down like in to make a deep playoff run. And so I think it's too little too late personally with the whole Kyrie thing and making the Nets contenders. I personally don't think they're equipped this season to win a title. But it's going to be interesting to see how the whole mandate affects that narrative and equation.
The mandate's definitely a huge portion because let's say it doesn't get lifted. And Kyrie, he can only play in road games right now. So what happens if they're in the first round of the play-in and Brooklyn's the 8 and Toronto's the 7? You can't play in Canada right now either. So you're talking.
Is he sitting?
He's not able.
He's sitting at home.
Because Canada's obviously got the mandate going right now. So they don't even have fans for as far as I know, even still. So you could be looking at they're playing the Raptors. He's sitting regardless. But the mandate's huge. I think I wouldn't pick the Nets to win a title this year, but I think they can if that mandate gets lifted. So that's definitely something I'm watching for. Sands touched a lot on the Eastern Conference. I think, obviously, I'm a Philly fan. How James Harden's integrated into the lineup is going to be fascinating. We play the Timberwolves tomorrow, so I'm interested to see how that goes. And it's funny, looking at last year, Sands and I talked about this all year. The 1 seed was the dream. Not only did you get to avoid that massive clash at the 2-3 spot in round 2 between Brooklyn and Milwaukee, the 4-5 was the Knicks and the Hawks. Turned out the Hawks. We all know what happened there. Ben Simmons, the past, yada yada. To further hit on Sam's point, I don't think the 1 seed is as much of a requirement as it might have been in years past because the East is so damn deep. And the standings are so tight. It's going to be hard to, as it sits right now. If you lose 1 game, you're going from 2nd to 6th. You know what I mean? It's going to be hard.
It's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's
so crazy.
It's going to be hard to kind of jostle for position, and some teams at the end will lose on purpose to find a favorable matchup. I don't know that you're really asking for anyone in the Eastern playoffs, in my opinion, outside of Cleveland. I don't think the Cavs
nobody
playing field is the top 6 or 7 in the conference. But you're not. Teams aren't gonna. You're not gonna jostle for. You're not gonna try to go
to
get
play the Bulls or the Heat or.
Yeah, you're not gonna want to do that. So I think the East playoffs are gonna be so fun, man. Because I don't think there's a team out there that you're gonna be vying to get in a position to play. I just think they've all got stuff going for them. And I know he didn't touch on the West. There's a lot of big storylines in the West that I'm looking forward to. I don't mean to rant, but you've got Chris Paul down 6 to 8 weeks, right?
Huge. I think they maintained the
massive.
one. They have a huge cushion on the Warriors.
They probably can, right? Like they're 6.5 up on Golden State, but
yeah,
20-something to go. But he's out 6 to 8 weeks. I think 7 weeks takes us to the playoffs. So is Chris Paul missing what? 1 game?
Yeah.
Does he miss the entire first round? Is he back on time? Can he still shoot the same because it's a thumb on his shooting hand? I think Phoenix is going to be fascinating. So we're going to see how they hold up. Draymond Green is obviously still out. That, to me, has been one of the least talked about injuries across the entire NBA season.
Talked about it on my pod today. Yes.
Thank you.
Let's go.
I
can't wait to listen to that tomorrow.
Like, there has been he's ramping up. He's close to returning. He's playing 3-on-3. There's been not a single peep out of Golden State, and that's kind of worrisome.
It has been. It's been hella hush, right?
Hush. And they talked about it being maybe a nerve in his back, and that makes me nervous, man. Like, it makes me really nervous. So I think that's going to be fascinating because they don't have a chance without Draymond. Obviously, I don't care if they're the 2 seed, the 1 seed, the 7 seed. They can't win a chip without Draymond. And you've got.
I see what you did there. That nerve makes you nervous.
You feel me? No, for real. But then you've got the Utah Jazz, who I'm finally, Sands, I would like to apologize. I am here with you. The Utah Jazz will never again be called a contender in my lifetime. Never
Thank
again.
you, man.
Thank you.
And they're going to miss Joe Ingles
more
than they know.
First.
They're going to miss Joe Ingles more than they know, and I think that's going to disconnect that locker room. Spide is going to be out of there. I know that sounds crazy. He was one of their mesh guys in the locker room, and they traded him for a year that he wasn't going to play. They traded him for Alexander Walker, and just like it wasn't really – that's basically what they got out of the deal anyways. It just wasn't worth it to me. But no, I've always said Jazz and contenders don't go together, neither do the Nuggets.
See, I was about to bring up – I'm intrigued at what the Nuggets are going to look like. You've got the Mavericks too. I mean, if you took a poll over the last week, 2 weeks, Luka's top 3 in MVP. I mean, he's – ever since the KP trade, that dude has been on a mission, dropping 50 bombs. He got a 49-piece, 51-piece.
You know what's funny? He started doing that after they did do an MVP poll at ESPN, and he was like 10th. He was behind Kevin Durant, who hasn't played the last 3 weeks.
He started going off after the straw poll. So you've got Dallas is kind of fascinating to me, just because it's a shame that you've got a top 5, 7 player in the world at 21, 22 years old, and I don't think anybody with a real pulse on the NBA thinks they have any chance of winning a title. And that to me is kind of sad. It feels like early LeBron years where it's where he's got some solid pieces. They're number 1, number 2 in defensive rating. Like, they're playing good ball.
I was about to say, they play great defense, and then they pray he gets all the points other than Jalen Brunson. That's literally what it is.
Right. You can't do that for 4 rounds. So, but Dallas is playing good ball. You know, you're not going to, by the same token, can they win a chip? I don't think so. But do you want to play Luka Doncic in a 7-game series? I mean, just ask the Clippers. Like, he has single-handedly kept them.
He hates them, by the way. He has a personal vendetta against the Clippers.
So that's the thing is obviously the component of adding in the trade, right? They moved away from the toxicity from Kristaps Porzingis. That's been belabored. I don't want to belabor that point anymore, but
what it was,
Spencer Dinwiddie, who was for real. So obviously the market wasn't there, or otherwise the Mavs would have been able to acquire a lot more in exchange.
I told y'all to trade him 2 years ago. I told them.
Yeah, you did. You did. This is the shout out to Sands podcast or episode today, because I was wrong there too, man. I actually even clapped back.
Mavericks fans.
I made a YouTube video specifically at you about the Kristaps shit, and now it's blown up in my face.
They're like, "Do you think it's 2K?" Man. I'm like, "No." His trade value is as high as it's going to be right now, because when he played without Luka, he was balling a year ago, and then now look what happened.
Right.
So.
And this is obviously me being biased,
for
but
sure. Give it some Mavs, give us some Dallas. Bro.
The Mavs thing with you heard, I'm new to the JJ Redick podcast because of you guys keep referencing it. So I was like, all right, they talk about it this much, it's got to be good. I'm gonna turn it on. So I have been doing that, and one of the things that he said in one of the more recent ones, I think it was the one who was talking with Jason Tatum, but he said, in playoff matchups, you're always looking at like who has the best player for the series, right? And so I don't know there's not a ton of scenarios in the West where the Mavs won't be able to say that.
No. So
that alone, the Luka Doncic component alone gives them a chance. Now we'll see. Can Davis Bertans be that floor stretching big that earned him that gaudy contract in the first place in Washington? Can he find that shooter's touch again? I think he was averaging like 41% or 42% prior to that, to him being dealt to
before that deal.
A sniper.
Speaking of Bates, what he was saying right now, so I'm laughing. Sorry, my friend Zach Bates is a diehard Wizards
he probably
the text that I got from him when they traded him, he's like, he's gone. He's finally gone. He was so happy.
Isn't that funny? How the narrative from market to market is just so different.
He's like, Chris
talked about it with Ben Simmons.
He will average more than 5 points a game for his contract.
Yeah.
He's like, because he was talking about the contract. He's like, bro, 85 M's that we paid him for him to come out and become literally a walking brick house is crazy.
Yeah.
I just feel sorry for Bradley Beal, man. I wish he could get out of there.
He will.
That was my dream scenario for the
He'll
Mavs.
get out. That's your dream scenario for anybody
he's hurt.
right now.
Yeah.
He'll be the best number 2 in the
But he's
league
hurt
in
now,
no
so
time.
it's like,
be best number 2 other than James probably in the league in no time.
He'll probably sign the Supermax and he will struggle for half a year till the trade deadline, maybe a full year, and then he'll ask out. Because
it already changed. Remember, he was last year. Before we get out of here, last year he was talking about he did the Dame thing. I love Washington. I'll never leave. Within 3 months of the season going, he's like, I ain't feeling this. Yeah. And then now he goes and gets wrist surgery, which his wrist got hurt, I believe, 15 or 17 games into the season. And then he gets wrist surgery at the trade deadline. And then the reports come out he's unhappy with the Wizards. So he's going to be out of there.
Right.
Yep. No, that's all interesting.
All in due time, man. We could go on for hours. I'll end it with this, man. Thank y'all for listening. It's been a blast. I'm glad that I finally get to put these two with their NBA knowledge in particular and just on full display. So that's been a blast. I hope y'all have enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button if you made it this far. Thank you for rapping with us. There will be we'll have all kinds of stuff. You see the jerseys. These guys, we are 7 months from the 2022 NFL season, and look what these guys are wearing. I've got, you guys know what it is, man.
Real Bucks fan.
Shirt on under here.
Horrible. We're dead. So we're done.
We got the spectacle that is the Underwear Olympics, just a week away, followed by the NFL draft. I talked about on my channel at the Lando Show. The important dates are coming up. We are in franchise tag season. The Eagles have 3 first-round picks. The Bucks don't have a quarterback anymore. They've got to figure that out.
Kyle Trask.
The Cowboys have the 24th overall. Kyle Trask, stand up. We have a lot of stuff planned. We just got to figure out how to get all of our schedules to coincide and co-align and bring you guys the content. Yeah. But this is what we love to do, and we thank you guys for watching. For myself, for Chris.
Yes, sir.
At K-Will. Actually, y'all plug your Twitters real fast before we cut it off.
I think mine's Chris Wilson 23. I gotta check on that though.
Yeah, KRISWILSON 23. I add them too much to not know what it is by memory.
There you go. You got it memorized.
Mine is at Degenerate HLS. Figure out how to spell it. I can barely spell it myself. But yeah, man, Instagram, Hunter Lee Sands, and obviously Shooting the Shit with Sands is my podcast. It's a good time over there, man. Go listen to it. It's very raunchy, a lot of comedy mixed in with I have like a 10-minute intro where I talk about current events basically, and I just bullshit about it. So yeah, that's about it.
It was fun, man. Let's do it again.
All right.
Super
planning on Thursdays for now. That's obviously likely subject to change, but we'll see you guys next Thursday. This is episode 1. Many more to come. Also, one last thing. Shout out to Colt Elkins, who is our 4th comrade. Couldn't be with us due to technical difficulties. He brings another interesting, very, very intelligent, and honestly just a entertaining value to what we have and what we're excited to bring. So that's it. We'll have a name hopefully by next Thursday of what we're going to call ourselves. But we don't right now. But that's it. Y'all, appreciate y'all tuning in. Thank you so much.
Thank you.